It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, October 3rd. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that wants to wish my amazing co host a very happy birthday. Happy
Uh,
birthday, Russ.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, let's get the show going.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, once again. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You'll keep up to date on Flyers news and our episodes. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. On today's show, we are going to talk about the latest Flyers news from training camp and the cuts. We're going to recap the two games against the Bruins and Isles for this preseason. And then it's Monday, so we'll have our nemesis of the week. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you are listening right now. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. Russ, we got the first big cuts of camp on Friday, which we assumed would happen right after we recorded our episode for the day. And sure enough, it did. So they've now set up Phantoms camp, and then they divided the groups basically into the main roster and bubble players, and then the Phantoms and the other one for those couple of practices, split it differently over the course of the weekend, but it was kind of clear where everybody stood based on
hmm
that set of cuts. And some interesting things came out of it. First off, they had to put Isaac Ratcliffe and Lena Sandin through waivers. They both cleared, which was a very good thing. I think obviously we were more nervous about Isaac Ratcliffe,
Yeah.
but I think them being in the huge batch of players going through waivers on that day where a lot of teams made cuts, I think like everybody got through.
It
So,
helped. Yeah. It
yeah.
helped. And that's fine. I mean, I didn't think he was going to make the team, although I'll say I don't think he had much of a chance either. He wasn't really given great opportunities, but at least he's still on the team. I think this is a guy still worthy of holding on to. There's so many smarmy Flyers fans out there now who are just angry and they're like, oh, look, see, everybody's worried about losing Ratcliffe and nobody wants him. But it's not because nobody wants him, it's because of what you just said. I mean, there is some
Hmm.
talent there.
Yeah, I think so too. The other thing was that Zack MacEwen was not in that top group for Friday, but was in the game Saturday. So I was just like, what does it mean here? Is he being challenged, or
He's
was it
being
just an
challenged.
yeah, but I also thought it was kind of a numbers game in terms of them wanting to get a good look at some of the bubble guys
Yeah,
on
sure.
Saturday, and there just wasn't room for him there as well.
No, I agree. I think it's a combination of both. Though I'll say I don't think Zach's a guarantee to make this team. We've talked about that.
Mm-mm.
And, all it takes is someone like Adam Brooks or something, because they decide they want a center and he's, probably not going to make the team.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a very good chance that he does not make the team because there's a lot going on with those bottom guys there. I do also want to talk about the goaltending situation because Carter Hart continues to not be playing in games. He's practicing, which is good, but still very nerve wracking because there's only one preseason game left, and he's got to get some action in before playing if he's healthy enough. And if he's not, that is also a problem.
Right, right. To me, he's got to play Tuesday. I know uh, things are getting close here. You need to see him for at least two periods, and he can get through that. And this way, they know they have him healthy for the regular season. If not, then you do have to sort of start scouring for a goalie because they don't really have one that could start the season.
Yeah, and, Felix Sandstrom getting injured in that game against Boston, as of now, we don't have any particular update. They're still evaluating, I guess, at the moment, as of the Islanders game. That's the latest information we had, and so that's a giant question mark here, which could be a problem. Sam Ersson did get the whole game on Sunday, though, which I think is a huge signal that they're considering him for that backup role, and especially with the injury to Sandstrom, like, he could really have to step up, and they needed to see him play a complete game.
Yeah, he's definitely in the mix. I mean, he played well, and but again, you don't want
Mhm.
to start your season with Sam Ersson, just like you don't want to start your season really with Sandstrom. Uh, it's interesting. There's not, a ton of guys out there that they can go get. So you really do have to cross your fingers and hope that Hart is better. And I think ultimately he will be, but it just shows you how thin they are at this position. And again, Chuck Fletcher didn't do a lot to create a lot of depth here. He just he got a guy that has 3 NHL starts under his belt in Grosnick, and everybody
Who
else is
has
green.
not impressed, by the
No, and he
way.
hasn't impressed, and everybody else is green, and he could have done better than that for a backup, especially with Carter Hart's injury history.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the only, strong candidate, and I'm kind of exaggerating there a little bit in terms of the goalies that were put on waivers, is Malcolm Subban,
Right,
who is, like, I think the best of what's available in that group, but I just don't know that that is a good option for the Flyers at this point, even with everything, and the timing's unfortunate because if they're not gonna really know what's going on with Sandstrom, and they don't have an answer on Hart, but they have a limited time with waivers, like, it's just not really a good position for the Flyers to be in.
right. I did see the Rangers sent down Louis Domingue,
They
um,
did.
and so he's better than Subban
Marginally so,
if
I
if you
would
go if you go
say.
that route. I mean, but he is. He's at least s I think done better as an NHL starter.
Mhm.
So if you had to go a route, that might be a route you go.
I do also wanna talk about, as we've been doing in this preseason, what are the questions the Flyers are trying to answer with their lineup choices, especially because on Saturday, that was still the assistant coaches running the bench, and Sunday, we had John Tortorella behind the bench. So is there something we can read into who was playing in those 2 different games? And I think that there's a couple of things that stood out to me. The first of which is that on Saturday, they split up the Cateses and put them on different lines to see how they performed and then
Yeah.
put them back together on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is they put Noah Cates at center, or Torts did, and
Mhm.
Frost on the wing, and Frost has done well at center. And
Mhm.
so this is the one where it's kind of like, all right, again, I like Noah Cates at center, but apparently, he didn't love playing the position. He says he'll play it. That's the word I've always heard the last year. But Frost is really good at the position, and
Yeah.
so my feeling is, why put Cates there? Frost is a little older. I would rather see Frost in center, and I just hope that they don't make Cates a center because, yes, he's having a great preseason, and this also falls into the whole Torts thing, like talking about Cam York saying, well, he's gonna, basically um, want him to be a now player, like he's 21. You're now asking a guy who's 21 to be a now player. That's not exactly the way you develop, but this is the way Tortorella's talking, and so while Cates is a little older, still lacking a lot of NHL experience, I'd rather see Frost at center.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I also was interested in what are they doing with Brooks and Belpedio? Like, why are they still around, and what are they trying to figure out with these two?
Well, Belpedio's Minnesota Wild guy. He's done after tonight. I don't think he did anything, and he didn't look
No.
particularly good. So I just think that's a wild favor. So I think forget about Belpedio. Now Brooks, because they do have a shortage at center, and
Yeah.
because Anisimov is still hurt, he could really tiptoe in here and take a job away from a younger player. And it seems like Torts is sort of liking him now, and he had a decent game. He's one of those guys that will tease you. He teased everybody on the Leafs. He has a few good moments, but on this team, he probably can make this team. I don't know if that's the best thing for him, but it does seem like it's possible. The other the other thing that really was evident in the Islander game is, you know, you have to be careful, I think, with the use of Cam York because his physical game is still not there. It's not where it's going to be in a year or two. And I still think you have to, acknowledge that and acknowledge that he's not a top four defenseman. And you see when he's going up against the Islanders, who, played a fair amount of NHLers tonight, he was losing some of those battles. So I hope that they're smart and they play him on the third pairing and they don't try and force him into something else to start the season.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty solid, with puck movement,
Hmm.
especially when he was up there on the power play. But I,
Yeah.
I think you're right about the other aspects of his game. But we're going to continue to talk about those couple of preseason games and what we learned from them coming up next. But first, we're going to hear about Simply Safe.
The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters, and that's why I use SimpliSafe in my own home. They protect you with the latest in security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. SimpliSafe's advanced technology is what I love the most. I can control the system from my phone with this app and can even watch an HD live stream from the security cameras or monitor the wide variety of high tech sensors in every room. There aren't even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/locked on NHL. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/locked on NHL to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
So, continuing our discussion about the preseason games from over the weekend, I think the biggest problem with alarm bells around it is the lack of the ability of the Flyers to score goals.
Yeah.
I think that, obviously they haven't scored much. And when they do, like two of their preseason goals were 5-on-3.
Yeah.
And so you got to read into that. They haven't really been able to score more than a goal in all of the preseason games except the first one. So, and they got shut out against Boston. So, not really productive offensively. And I think that one of the things we were talking about is if your systems are in place the way Torts does it, your defense is going to drive the offense. And they just don't have their systems together yet because they're still having breakout problems.
Yes. And honestly, it's not the most talented defensive group offensively either. D'Angelo is very talented. Sanheim's pretty good at it. York is okay at it right now. He's not where he's going to be either. Um, so to expect a lot of push from the blue line to get things activated isn't really going to be a great way to go here. In this particular game against the Islanders, what I noticed was they pushed Tippett around a lot. He got pushed around when he went to the crease. He fell down on the ice a lot. And I don't know if you noticed, but towards the end of the game, Salah was just shadowing him and he couldn't do anything. And
Yeah.
this is a problem. I know he got 3 shots on goal, but maybe one was a quality chance. One of them he took way too long to wind up on. I mean, again, this is where I wish he would have gone to a shooting coach because even on the power play, you don't have time to wind up like that. You just don't unless it's completely open shot and nobody is within, 5 feet of you. So again, he has not scored in the preseason. So having a lot of guys, but he's getting an inordinate amount of time and he's not getting it done. And that's, Torts is not going to give him as much rope as every other coach has as far as offensive chances and those kinds of opportunities. That's the thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. And speaking of that defensive problem, I think Tony D'Angelo did play better than he did in his first game out. So maybe it's just going to take him some time
He did
to
have a really
settle
dumb
in.
no-look pass 4-on-4,
Yeah,
though, that was a
I
bad
know.
turnover. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, I just
He's gotta
thought that
reel that in.
he did have some of his offensive puck movement
He did.
more together than he did in that first game. So hopefully he'll get there. He's never going to get there defensively because that's not him. But then at the same time, for a team that's supposed to be playing tough, and that's what the culture of this Flyers team is supposed to be. They were out hit 27-15 Saturday
Yeah.
against Boston. Risto, who is that tough guy, made some of the most obvious mistakes out there on the ice, and it was, like, garish. It wasn't even, like, mistakes that you can hide or that he tried to get back. They were just, I think really, really, lack of concentration, I think, was a
Or panic
problem.
mistakes. I mean, I do think
Yeah,
there's a little bit
yeah.
of panic that goes on at times, with the Flyers. Like, when they played the Islanders, they played exactly the way Torts does too, but, they're used to that, and they're more conditioned for that, and you saw that there was times where Matt Barzal was just literally skating circles around guys, and they couldn't touch him. Luckily, the Flyers goaltending was good, so, it kept them in it. And look, the Flyers had a good flurry at the end with the man advantage. That's fine. It was also against Jacob Skarek, so you would hope that they could score one against him, and they didn't. But in the end, I noticed that the second period, while all the goals were scored there, the Flyers did have a dip in energy, and in the third period, even though the Flyers did eventually outshoot the team, the Islanders, in the third period, my issue was um, the Islanders were pretty much in control of the puck most of the time until it got a little scrambly at the end, but they really kind of knew what they were doing and how to do it, and weren't really that worried about it.
Yeah, and especially the Islanders also having Anders Lee out there helped a
Yes,
lot. I thought he was he had a pretty good game,
he did.
himself. So, it was lopsided to some degree, but I do question this strategy that we've been talking about in terms of all the extra conditioning work are wearing these guys out. So, is their play effective enough in terms of really getting a sense of how these guys play versus, like, is this the right way to go for the Flyers, right? Like, are we wasting this preseason in a sense because they're just all too exhausted?
There's something to this preseason that just doesn't feel right. I mean, when you watch
Mhm.
them against these other teams, the other teams just seem better off conditioned, better, just a little crisper, and I do wonder.
Yeah, I'm just really nervous about everything because I feel like there are still so many questions out there that we're trying to answer, and we don't have those answers because we really don't know what's going on with some of these guys. And I think that even amongst that, we do have some bright spots. I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
Noah Cates
Yeah,
has
Cates is great.
great, and again, Frost is
Frost looks
playing
really
well.
good.
Yeah, whatever they're asking him to do, he's doing pretty well,
His play away from the
and
puck is very good.
mhm, and then it's just been nice that Olle Lycksell hasn't really dropped off. He's just continued to play, like, quiet but solid hockey and, like, really making good decisions out there.
He's
I
you know
saw
what it is?
him
Ollie Lycksell is
it's
a
he's
better
just heads up.
yeah, he's better version than Max Wohlman. Like, Max Wohlman used to kinda fill a void, but Lycksell could fill the same void, but create some offense too.
Yeah. I thought, Tyson Foerster was out there a lot
He
on
was.
Sunday, and it felt like sort of a last hurrah for
Mhm.
him in terms of, is he going to get a shot with this team? And I would say that he in the 3rd period, when the Flyers picked it up a little bit, he was part of that,
Yeah.
and when it got scrambly, but I don't think he made the most of the minutes that he got.
No, unfortunately, he probably didn't. He did look pretty good though, but I do feel like he's gonna get sent down.
Yeah. As far as the vets go, again, Saturday against Boston was just kind of dreadful. Like,
Yeah.
nobody was really stepping up there, and especially when you have guys like JVR out there, Kevin Hayes out there, who really should have sort of carried that team. You would think Kevin Hayes could bump it up a notch when he plays in Boston, and it just kind of wasn't there. And then, we talked about Ristolainen already, so Sanheim Risto was like the main defensive pair that was there, and I just felt like they were flat again, which is of concern. And then I thought Scott Lawton was pretty flat on Sunday as well.
Yeah,
Like,
he
he's
was.
really should have taken over that game in a lot of ways and did not.
No, and it just shows how he is like an extra piece for the Flyers. He needs help on his lines, veteran help to kind of get him going too. He doesn't create a lot by himself, and I think that's what he probably showed to his coach. But the part that you said that sort of alarms me is, and it's not a big worry that you don't win preseason games. It is a big worry that you only get a goal a game. That's a big worry. But the other worry is because of the way they've done this preseason, we don't feel like they're sharp. We don't feel like they're crisp.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, especially because they only have that one more preseason game, like we mentioned, and then they're off for 8 days in between the preseason and their first regular season game. And so, you know, are they gonna come into that opener against the New Jersey Devils sharp at all? And I doubt that tremendously based on how they've been treating the preseason now versus, you know, what this gap is gonna do.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about that Devils game, just kind of seeing them looking very skilled and taking advantage of some things, and maybe the Flyers trying to be physical as a result. Like to me, has Nick Delorier looked like anything?
No, not at all. All right, we are going to talk about our nemesis of the week. Seems like we have a lot of things to choose from coming up next. All right. If you are newer to Locked On Flyers, every Monday we look at the world of the Flyers and the NHL and say, what is bothering us the most or what makes us the most nervous about this upcoming week? That is our nemesis of the week. And last week we talked a lot about John Tortorella's training camp as our nemesis and kind of what it was doing to the players and just feeling secondhand exhaustion for them watching the bag skates and all of that. And I think, for me, the nemesis this week are who are the final cuts going to be and the goaltending question. I think those are the two big issues for the Flyers going into this week. And I think the goaltending question has me a little bit more nervous than the cuts because those kind of are what they are and the players are who they are. And we kind of know where they're heading with it. There might be a surprise, but I think, what happens with the injuries and who is going to be in net on October 13th, I couldn't even tell you.
No, and that's really distressing. That's definitely the nemesis for me this week too. Is what are they going to do about it? Is Chuck going to react quickly with it? Like that's the issue. Is Chuck didn't do so good in the offseason, picking a potential backup. Even if you thought Sandstrom was going to make it, um, there was a point where you knew Fedotov wasn't going to get here. And again, there was never a guarantee he was going to be the guy. So then you did need to get somebody. It was incumbent upon the GM to get somebody with real NHL experience, and he didn't do that.
No, Grosenick was not it. Like,
No,
just like, that is the signing I think that was the most surprising to me because he's not Pat Nagel, right? He's not the
right,
guy that's gonna be the AHL goaltender there, that we have that in Pat
right,
Nagel, and
right.
then whoever doesn't make the team is who's a prospect is your other Phantoms goaltender, and we've talked about that ad nauseum. And I just feel like while Chuck seemed to have a plan and options, it's not a good plan. And it hasn't worked out thus far. And as we know with Chuck Fletcher, his plan Bs are just never good.
No, I mean,
His
just
backup plans just
imagine
are not good.
they're not. Plan Bs are never good. Just imagine going into that Devils game, if Troy Grosnick was your goalie somehow, how would that game look?
Oh god, I don't even wanna think about that. It's, like, not like he's the worst goaltender ever, but it's been very clear in this
Eh,
preseason that he makes us the most nervous, right?
right.
That his rebound control isn't there, and I feel like he's missed like, when there's traffic in front of him, he has a problem.
Yeah. I just feel like he's rusty. I just don't think he's
Mhm.
played enough at a top kind of level, and I that's why I worry about, actually having to use him. I mean, again, if he were the true backup, right? Um, they wouldn't have had Urson play a full game. They probably would have had him play a full
Correct.
game and say, "All right, let's see if he could do this because just in case Carter can't make it." And they didn't do that.
No, I just feel like they have it in their heads that Carter Hart's gonna be fine,
Right.
and that's their plan,
Yep.
so
Yep. They're sticking
we'll
to it.
see we'll see how that goes. Wrapping up with our Flyers fun thing. It's not really the Flyers fun thing, but, we have another new mascot in the NHL. We haven't had one of those since Gritty, I think, was revealed. The Seattle Kraken, decided to add a mascot in their 2nd season, Buoy the Troll, and, I feel like there's some sort of kinship here with Gritty and that people were very confused and very alarmed by it at first, but I feel like it's a mascot that Seattle will embrace and defend much in the same way. And I feel like they could wreak havoc together, like instead of
Mhm.
being put up against each other, in terms of
What do
who's
you mean, like,
better.
they could both torment Dave Haxtell? Is that what you're
Yeah,
getting at?
they could torment a lot of people together. I think it
They
would be
could, but this
fun.
this mascot is even uglier than Gritty. Like, it's just I guess there's no good-looking troll, but I think they tried to sort of make it half cute, half trollish, and it's got a very bizarre look. Like, when Bowie was kinda being led down the ice with the wires,
Mhm.
it was kind of freaky. Like, it was almost like a bat coming out of a bell tower. Like, it was unnerving. I didn't like it. I don't really even wanna see Bowie in public, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it has a little bit of an anime influence to the design.
Yeah.
Which, I like that. But yeah, I just think it's one of those things where it's gonna like get more and more affection over time. So
And
we'll see though.
it's gonna be like Baba Booey all over the place with the Howard
Oh
Stern
no.
show and now having a mascot, that's something's gonna happen with that at some point. So I just figured I'd mention it now. Get it out of the way.
All right. All right. That'll do it for today's show. We'll be back again tomorrow with all the latest Flyers news from training camp. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. Send us in your questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY, and Anna is not on Twitter, but she's on Instagram sometimes. My cat.
Yes. Always like a cat appearance or a dog appearance on the podcast. You made us your first listen today. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. So stay up to date on everything in the hockey world with Locked On NHL, your daily NHL podcast. Have a great day. And once again, happy birthday, Russ.
Thank you.